Well, welcome back to the podcast. For my listeners, I'm your host, Ben Iiames, exploring the depths of healthcare. Got a very special guest with us today. Really excited to jump into conversation. Why don't you introduce yourself, Renan?
Hi, Ben. First of all, thank you very much for having me on your podcast, and I'm excited to be here. So my name is Renan Lachman. I'm the CEO and founder of Better Speech. Better Speech is the largest online speech therapy provider in the US. We're servicing thousands of children and adults with the mission of helping everyone that has any speech impediment improve their speech and basically get their voice heard by providing the most affordable, effective, and efficient speech therapy. As a way of background, I used to be a fighter pilot. I used to be a management consultant, work on Wall Street, and ended up running several tech and AI companies. And now I'm happy to run a company of 300 people, all of them remote in 12 countries around the world. And this is why we're talking now.
Yeah, exactly. Man, so you've really had your hand in everything. You've done a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and kind of tried your hand at anything you can get your hands on.
Yeah, I don't know if everything, but I'm a practitioner of changing my comfort zone and moving to other industries. And I think it's one of the benefits of bringing to healthcare actually diverse views from other industries that makes it a lot more exciting.
Yeah, exactly. So what what piqued your interest into this specific field, into developing better speech in the first place?
So like many startup stories, it's always like the personal view and the personal angle. So my wife is a speech therapist and she used to provide speech therapy in schools for many years. And when COVID hit, where everybody was locked down and everything became remote, we found basically the opportunity to create a platform that provide teletherapy. And back then, the biggest challenge of this industry was that people got used to do in-person therapy. And when COVID hits, everybody basically started getting used to Zoom. And that becomes the number one to provide therapy. And the business took off really, really quickly and grew very quickly. And within a year, we literally became the largest platform, ranked number one by Forbes for the service. And yeah, it's just amazing what you can do today with the proper technology.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of advancements happening. I mean, it feels like every month there's a new advancement in healthcare tech, right?
Indeed. And definitely, if we're talking about technology, AI is a big accelerator of everything that we do. Um, as we kind of start working and kind of growing about 2 years into our founding, we had several schools reaching out to us and basically asked us to place speech therapists. And as we start working with special education directors there, we realized that there is a better way to accelerate progress for students. The way we found a more efficient way to do it is by creating an AI speech helper, which we call her Jessica, which basically improve student outcome by 32%. So we launched Jessica in 2023, and it's currently definitely the first, currently the only AI speech therapist that exists out there, and we implementing it in the dozens of schools currently, dozens of districts.
And yeah, very cool. And obviously, you're part of the idea committee of getting Jessica up and running, or the development, I should say, the ideas for development. But do your speech language pathologists utilize Jessica as additional kind of help, or is Jessica its own entity that services patients on its own?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Ben. So we developed Jessica to be a practice tool that assists the live speech therapist to do their work.
Gotcha.
So we started by providing it as a homework tool, and now we actually split our program. So we have a program that provides only live speech therapy and one that provides a combination of it. So one time a month you see a speech therapist, and the other times you practice with Jessica. And we found it that it's a great way to lower the barrier of people to get speech therapy because the cost of speech therapy can be higher than what some, obviously, it depends in their financial capability, but currently it's $320 for 4 sessions a month with a live speech therapist and just $99 for the mix plan. So we see a
Combo
lot
plan.
with a combo plan. Exactly.
Okay. That's really cool. So you found a way to kind of lower the barrier, as you say, but also still engaging the patient. Like they're still seeing good progress from this, is what I'm understanding.
Without a doubt, we're actually running now a clinical trial, showed the efficacy with Syracuse University.
Oh, cool.
From our own data, we see that children actually progress faster, about 32% with Jessica. And another element which is very interesting, which is a psychology of where AI comes into play, is when you have a patient that has a speech impediment, sometimes it's stuttering, sometimes they're just not confident with how they say a word or a sentence. Working with a live human being, as much as empathetic as they are, they can feel the disappointment if they're not progressing well enough. And with an AI bot, which is an avatar, they have no embarrassment from that perspective. So they can run the same drill again and again and again until they actually get the improvement that they need, while Jessica giving them the personalized instructions how to improve their articulation, how to improve their speech. It's much easier for them to do it. So they do it more. And because of it's gamified, definitely with children, you have avatars that they're more relating to. This is helping, obviously, to promote and drive the progress faster.
And maybe it's also related somewhat to not feeling under that pressure of performance kind of anxiety.
100% correct. And also, I think the fact that it becomes easier because it's a web-based. You can do it anywhere. You can do it from home. You can do it even, as you're driving to the soccer match over the weekend. And it's not tied to any kind of prescribed schedule. It's an easier tool to people interact with. So we see a very large intake of that tool by our pay clients, and it's been very successful to date.
Wow, that's really, really cool. And I love hearing that the efficacy actually is increasing with the use of Jessica and also, kind of having that practice module in a sense, of being able to perform the practice outside of the regularly scheduled appointments. You're maximizing the most use of your like your SLPs, correct?
Exactly that. So we never look at it and we never want to replace our SLPs. We use it as a way to augment the performance of our SLPs and get a better outcome for the patients.
Wow. I mean, how many patients have you guys served so far or been able to help?
I think that since we started, 32,000. So it's in the high numbers.
And that's amazing. I mean, it's cool to hear. This is the reason why my listeners understand, but I love to highlight people who are bringing good to the world and trying to improve the efficiency of our practices that are, have already been around, but improvement can always be done, right? Especially in the healthcare hemisphere. So, on the speaking more to the kind of the business side of things, what kind of direction do you see yourselves going in the next 6 to 12 months? What dreams do you have for the future? But also, what have you identified even as recently as the past 2 years, like some big hurdles that you guys have overcome or will continue to overcome?
Yeah, so definitely we see an increase in AI use, both internally within the business and we about a year ago we launched a new product called Streamline, which actually takes that knowledge that we gained working with schools and working with AI and actually bringing a new mission control system for schools in their special education. So people are not familiar with, but about currently 20, and now it's growing to about 30% of school students have special needs, either from speech or T or PT or counseling. Obviously, depression, anxiety is a big thing in schools. And what we've seen is our ability to leverage technology and create product that allows schools to meet 100% compliance for their IP requirements, but increase 90% of their paperwork, because all the therapists, if you ask any therapist, nobody likes paperwork, and
Tell me
creating
about it.
the report. Exactly, you know it better than anyone. It's part of the job. We have to do it, right? But nobody likes it. And if they can, they would like to spend 100% of their time dealing with the patients and actually providing the therapy that they were trained on. And unfortunately, when you go to school environment, any kind of organization that has needs to kind of work with compliance requirement, either by the federal or state requirement, you have to fill that paperwork. And if you have tools that basically can reduce by 90% your paperwork and allows you and free about 50%, that's what we're seeing with our clients, 50% of their time is now being free to do more therapy. You get to the point that sessions, and a lot of schools nowadays, some of them are doing 100% group therapy. So if you try to help children, and instead of working one-on-one, you bring 3 to 8 of them, to a session, obviously you do provide them value, but you don't provide them as much value as you can do as one-on-one. And so having those tools that allows you to do that and bring you more one-on-one therapy is our goal, and we're achieving that. And as we add more of those practicing tools, both on speech, and now we're adding OT, it really allows the kids even to like it, because it's personalized, it's gamified for them, they like it, and we see better adherence and better outcome for the patient.
And so, it sounds like a lot of the clients that you have are mostly contracted through school systems of some type, correct?
So we have what we call the B2C clients. So there's, general population clients that find our service and subscribe to
Contact
our
your sales
service.
department and just go one to one.
Exactly. Or through schools. Yes.
Okay. And are you doing Streamline like kind of as an additive for the customer base already, is what you're saying?
It started like that, Ben, exactly. So we had clients that we already provided services, SLP services placement in their school, and then we converted them to pilot of Streamline. But now we have a whole
Gotcha.
operation that basically reach out to schools, and through also from RFPs and salespeople that reach out to schools and conferences. And we see great adoption to it, because it's a system that doesn't exist, and it's really cutting edge. The personal thing here that I took, so as I think I mentioned to you, I used to be a fighter pilot in my past, and when I used to fly into complex missions, in our helmet, I used to have a dashboard that showed me for every second of the flight the exact information that I need to that part of the flight. And that information was different for me than my co-pilot. And it was also different than my wingman, because each one of us has a different part to play in that mission. And when you look at schools and special education, you have a lot of stakeholders. You have the districts, the director, the special education director, and then you have the providers, the therapy providers, if they speech therapist, OT, OPT, and they have different needs. And what we're able to basically build a system that connects all those dots, but provide them the right information at the right time, and basically give them that jet helmet that they can use in order to be successful in their mission. And their mission is to improve patient outcome.
Yeah. And so you're giving them a more defined role in that way, or kind of eliminating the fluff, we'll say.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
focusing on the important thing, which is
Yeah.
not easy to do in environment, because we all have busy lives, right? Like we're getting into our work environment, and we're start dealing with things just to put out fires, okay? But the important thing is, sometimes I would say neglect, it sometimes get hidden behind all the fluff that you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, one of the biggest things it sounds like you guys are accomplishing is cutting out that charting time and cutting out that paperwork. I mean, there's a cost on that of eliminating that paperwork that you're probably seeing the bonus and the benefit from that very tangibly. Also, I mean, obviously in the numbers themselves, but probably more so in the work-life balance of your employees and these different therapists, I'm sure.
For sure, it's our therapists and also all the people that work in special education. So the idea is if they used to spend 3 to 7 hours, completing an IEP, basically a report for a student that summarized
Hmm.
all their progress, now it's done in 10 minutes. And that's a huge time saving. And it's also increasing accuracy because obviously we use a huge database that basically can best practices and bring all of that efficiency into it. And at the end of the day, it increases the team retention and satisfaction from their
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
And we all know that there is a national shortage of providers, good healthcare providers, and there's not enough of them out there. And if we're able to make their life easier and more convenient and more accurate and increase their time doing therapy, I think everybody benefits from it, both from the school and obviously the organization and definitely the students.
Absolutely. Do you have any goals? I'm not sure if this is a goal or if you can share this, but do you have any goals to move in kind of the clinic space at this point as well and kind of going outside the school realm and with children?
So we're currently running a clinic with about 250 speech therapists. So that's kind of what I mentioned, the B2C side. So that obviously
I
keep
see. I
on
see.
running and growing in parallel. But because we've seen that great demand from the school side,
I see.
we created we created Streamline. Yeah.
It's go where the people are, go where the demand is.
Definitely always go where the demand is.
That's business
And
101.
business 101. AI is something that is top of mind for all of us nowadays. A lot of people are afraid of AI and they're fearing for their job, fearing for their career. And I think it's a great opportunity for people that can transfer from being AI resistors to AI collaborators. And that's the reason that I wrote the book that I mentioned to you before, a Comfort Override, Future Proof Your Life as AI Flips Your World. And because of that kind of greatest fear, people think that their expertise will save them. Okay. But the reality is that the very skills that make you feel successful today might be the one that destroys you tomorrow. And the reason for that is that we're kind of locked in routines that make us very comfortable, especially in the healthcare space that many times is slower to adapt. We live now in a world that is moving much, much faster. Okay. AI is already taking roles that in the past. So for instance, if you look at prostate diagnostic, AI is able to diagnose prostate cancer with 86% accuracy, while when you look at traditional physicians, it's 66% accuracy. Overall, there's a big jumps in capabilities across the board in multiple areas. And I think healthcare professionals are basically obviously taking notice. There's obviously AI is getting into labs, is
A
creating
lot of
new
imaging studies.
images studies, new compounds are being created by it, and we'll see a lot of progress coming out of it. But I
Yeah.
think the average listener of your podcast hear all this progress, but has kind of this internal fear of what does it mean for them. And what I've done, at least in our company, is that uh, definitely focused on education, on AI education, so people know how to work with it and sign up, subscribe to an AI Academy, provide each one of them the requirements to use basic and then advanced prompting and kind of move them from I give them two options. Either you can be an AI freeloader, okay, which basically means do what everybody does, write emails and throw them in ChatGPT and, let them fix it for you and then send it out and think that, you're doing a fantastic job. But I basically told them that then your time in better speech is going to be very limited and you're not going to thrive here. And instead, what I encourage our team is to be what I called an AI lord, which basically a manager of AI agents that can
Yep.
basically
Yep.
look at your workflow, your healthcare workflow, your work workflow, basically find a way to be smarter and be more efficient with how you do things and analyze better so we can achieve our goals in a much more efficient.
Totally. And so that sounds like a piece of wisdom to kind of share with the public in the healthcare sphere of use this technology. It is not meant to, you're not meant to freeload from this. You're not meant to, be the slave to it, or it's not going to replace you, but you have to be dedicated to becoming its master in a sense, right?
Exactly. And even the example that I mentioned before about prostate cancer. So while the AI diagnosed in a better accuracy, but the combination of AI and human-led analysis actually increasing it to 92%. So it's always, well, you look at some statistic that basically says by 2030, 25% of the positions will be replaced by AI. And if you look 10 years up, it's, some, estimates look at it at about 60%. And those positions are not getting eliminated. Okay. They're being replaced by new positions that we don't even know that will be existing in 5 years. Okay.
Yeah, it's true.
So that fear of your position, what you're going to do, your system, the hospital that we're working with, let go of, 5% or 10% of our staff of customer service inside of them. There's always going to be a human that is going to lead decisions. And you as an individual need to create adaptability as a superpower in order to adjust to those changing times. And this is what in the book, I kind of define it as the ADAPT framework, which basically allows you to go through the stages and kind of build adaptability embedded into your life with micro variance exercises, from small things that people can do in 1 or 5 minutes every day. So for instance, we go to the gym, or like many of us are going to the gym. I go 4 times a week. But if you go every day and you do the same exercise, you're going to plateau very quickly, and you're not going to see the muscle improvement that you. But even small things, instead of doing your routine exercise, you do it even in a reverse order, okay? And you change the number of reps. And those are all the little things that slowly create an improvement, daily improvement, that
Hmm.
over time make a big difference. And that's kind of the concept that I think that in the world that we're living in, the healthcare system that we live in, that are being affected by the technological changes, those are things that healthcare providers need to pay attention to and help their team in order to implement.
And not be so resistant to it. I think what the term that I've kind of heard thrown around, or I can't remember who actually came up with it, but it's making micro adjustments. Micro adjustments in your practice. The old timers that I'm around, if this system has been working for 20, 25 years, they're more resistant because that's what they know. But you hope to be more malleable and flexible as you continue to practice and as you continue to develop your medical practice so that you can have these micro adjustments along the way. You know, okay, try this little piece of changing this piece of your workflow, right? Just one little change, see how it goes. And then from there, you can kind of keep progressing, right? I think personally speaking, for what we do for when I work in the emergency department, I've started using an AI kind of scribing tool. And it's kind of a learning process, right? Like you're saying, I mean, you have to learn and you have to be flexible to attempt it because it's not perfect. I have to proofread it every time and it messes up a lot, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay to give it the data to learn from it, right?
Correct.
Because eventually it's going to assist me.
Yep. Yeah. And I know of hospitals now that are embedding those systems that are compulsory, right? And you can't even get a treatment. So if a patient basically said, no, I don't want to work, with those systems and provide from data privacy, they basically don't accept that patient because that's their way they're doing business now. Very similar to the way that, you know, you have CCTVs cameras, right, in hospital for security. Yeah, and you can't say no. I want you to turn off that CCTV because it's invading my privacy. You accept it as the way it is. So as long as uh, we know how to limit those systems in a way that keeps the privacy of FERPA, CAPA, whatever rules that you apply, HIPAA that you apply with, they're applicable with, and, put guardrails around the LLMs and make sure that the privacy information are not leaking out. I think people will be okay. And it's a matter of learning and becoming more adaptable. Healthcare professionals basically have to face that reality, less resistant, more adjustment, those micro adjustments that you just mentioned. People don't understand it, but 1% improvement every day, okay, every day basically increases 37% x your performance over a year. Okay.
Wild.
So
Yeah.
those little minute changes that by themselves don't look big, so why would I even bother doing that? Okay,
Right.
they accumulate and they compound over time.
Yeah. It's just like, investments.
Yep,
You make a
exactly.
little investment here, a little investment there, and 40 years later, look what you have, right?
Yeah,
Let it grow, let it compound.
exactly that. One of the examples that I actually give in the book is very very similar to that, changing from the traditional way we used to even manage money, etc. So we used to work with a financial advisor, right, that manage account, and they used to, to take 2% as their fee, to manage your money. But if you look over 40 years, let's say you have a portfolio, let's say you put 100,000 in the beginning, after 40 years, if you look at that 2% takes more money than what is left in your account. So your manager is taking 55% of what you're earning, assuming 7% of growth in your stock portfolio year over year, which it doesn't matter if it's go up and down because it is taking 2% of what you have regardless, versus new tools that you have with the robo advisors like Wealthfront and others that basically are charging a quarter of percent, okay, which
Right.
making a huge difference with how much you're ending up with. And that's the whole law of compounding interest and compounding benefit of those micro changes that you're making.
Yeah, exactly. Man, super cool to talk about this. I hope that my listeners can really, a lot of them are in the healthcare field. So it's just encouraging that flexibility, encouraging that malleability, like the term that I've used before, of being able to accept some changes. Obviously, don't accept every person that walks in the door and sells you something, but these changes are going to be here to stay. And that's what I'm hearing you say, but I'm also seeing. And so how can we readjust, right, in these new times?
Exactly. And the change of pace is accelerating. So if you look at, I'll give you another example. A radio took 38 years to get to 50 million users. 38 years. Okay. ChatGPT took 2 months to get to 50 million users. Okay. So it's just becoming exponential. It's the usage increases that we can see AI, for example, now literally in almost any area of healthcare. You see countries that are using a avatar friend for all their mental health needs,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
starts from questions about, serious issues that they have to just, you know, dating issues, etc. And it becomes their best friend. And something that the whole psychology world, psychologists are looking at that and getting shocked, by how this that you used to go to your therapist once a week for that specific time, exact time, pay enormous amount of money, to get this advice. And now you have in your pocket your therapist that can
Mm-hmm.
provide you in real time feedback on whatever you feel. And you look at those products. I don't know if you've tested some of them. I tested them just to see how they work. And it's just amazing. And it's very
Right.
empathetic, very, very helpful just to let people get out on what they have on their chest. Even just for that, it's a great benefit. And
Yeah,
then,
just for that, having somebody to process with.
yeah, a companion, that you can talk to, although it's mainly chat, but they can transition to voice, very, very quickly. And it's just amazing how this revolution is here, and we just need to be adaptable to it, learn it, and work with it, and not against it. And whoever will be wise enough to create that adaptability as a superpower and work with it will actually be more successful, and definitely in the healthcare space will able to reach more people and be more impactful in their profession.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love your insights. They're really, yeah, it's really cool to hear that you see it and really see it being played out and are giving it, from an experience perspective. So kind of touching on that, like obviously there's a lot of growth potential. There's still so many people to be served, right? And with better speech, what do you see as kind of being the major roadblock that you guys are running into, if there are any, or is it just exponential growth?
Yeah, so life is never just exponential growth. There is reality in front of us. So there's always challenges. Okay, I can tell you that when we launched Jessica, the AI SLP helper, we got resistance from existing SLPs in the community. Okay, that say, how come, I studied 6 years, I'm certified, licensed, board certified, and there's nothing that will replace my 15 years of experience and working with the children. And I understand that, and there's initial resistance, but it's always happened like that. New technology come in, there's a resistance, then there's a learning, and then there is adaptation and adoption by those exact SLPs, for that tool, because they see the benefit for their clients with it. So I'm gonna keep on we're going to keep seeing some of that, okay, until there's going to be equilibrium. There's new technologies coming all the time. I I see a different personally. I've two children, and I personally, if I fortunate enough to have grandchildren from them, and they are now 18 and 15. I I personally see a future in which, for instance, where people will not read and write, right? Because everything will be voice driven and digital touch driven, and to live in that world will create new, very different challenges, even for us. And we're disrupting ourselves on a regular basis within our services, within our products, because we believe that the things that work for us now will not work for us in the future. Okay. And there are bigger, better opportunities. And that's the reason we extended our clinic into Streamline, because of that kind of opportunity, moving from a service basically business to a SaaS software business.
I was going to say, yeah, it sounds more like that.
Yeah, which has better margin, and it's much more scalable, right? Because once you build that software, you can sell it to many other districts.
Yeah, you can go more B2B at that point.
Exactly. So there's always competitors that coming in. When I mentioned to you we're the first and currently only, I'm sure that there will be others, and nowadays with vibe coding tools, etc. It's very easy to come up and either copy or come up with your new idea and create a product that historically used to take 2 years to develop. Now, two guys in a basement can launch it within a week. Seriously, and people are doing it, and obviously it's getting into a complex environment like a district. It's not going to work so easily, because you have to get there and prove and
You got to
show
be
the track
vetted at
record
that
that you
point.
have.
Yeah.
You have to be vetted in that point. But things are changing, okay, and very rapidly. And I'm sure that I don't even know the amount of challenges that are facing us.
Isn't that, it's a little terrifying from a business owner standpoint of we don't
Yeah,
know what's around the
I,
corner, but
I,
something
I,
will happen.
but something for sure will happen. But actually, going back to this adaptability capability, when you know that you are adaptive, you're not afraid of it, because I know that whatever challenges that we had, we can face it. And the more you practice adaptability, the better the skills become, and the faster you become more adaptable. So to tell you that I'm not losing sleep because of those challenges and because of this adaptability capability, but I know that we will facing, and whatever, if you'll talk to me next year, our business will be different. I
Yeah.
can promise you that.
Yeah. And I mean, I've actually had this conversation with a couple of my other guests. I think that would be a great time for us to see how we are now and have this conversation and then repeat and run it back a year to the day and then, kind of recap. I think that would be really fun, really exciting and to see what changes and kind of download based on our conversation today.
Yeah, and I think those type of episodes are very interesting when you can hear back and then you have an update of where the business is, what changed, and what new reality came in and change the assumptions, underlying assumptions, and force us to make different decisions.
Absolutely. So, as we kind of close out, like, why don't you give us some closing remarks, obviously, just about better speech, but also sharing about your book, just for my listeners' sake. Obviously, we can kind of give them access to both of those things, but where can they find?
Yeah, so Better Speech is available on betterspeech.com and Streamline is at streamline-sped.com, and the book is available on Amazon and very soon in many stores. And it's a practical system to stay ahead of AI and disruption. And it is a really practical tool that is meant for everyone to understand the challenges and get the framework that I mentioned, the ADAPT framework, and actually have a 90-day plan of things that you can implement today within 1 or 5 minutes that really brings you to a much better place in life that affects both your career and relationship and wealth. So it touched a lot of things, but with the same kind of foundation that I mentioned.
Awesome. Man, thanks for all your sharing. And I'll make sure to give our listeners the links to those, where to find betterspeech.com, but also how to get access to his book on Amazon. And hopefully, our listeners, you hear back from them and have good response from them as well.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to hearing from every person because this is the way to improve. The iteration that you mentioned before comes from customers' feedback that read the book, comfort or ride, have a reflection, have a suggestion, and then the beauty of the book, you can always adjust it, and especially because it's an AI book, it's going to change, probably every quarter.
I love that. You can keep writing volume one, volume two, volume three, and just readjustments the whole way through.
Exactly, because the tools and the tips are changing as we have better tools, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Man, really great having you on the show today, Renan. I really appreciate your time and your sharing.
Likewise, Ben, it was a pleasure, and I look forward to our follow-up conversation next year.
Yeah, can't wait. 2026, here we come.
Here we come.
Thanks, Renan. Have a good day, okay?
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.